nasty. Welcome back to Yev's Builds, and today we're gonna be doing Dennis's M3 again. What are we doing? I always lose speech, dude. Welcome back to Yev's Builds, and today we're doing Dennis's Diff Bushings and center bearing, as well as the Guibo. Dude, let's do it, man. To remove this side of the drive shaft, you gotta remove the Guibo, right? The Guibo bolts, the nuts. It's an 18 mil, and there's a nut on the other side. To access the nuts on the other side easier, you're gonna wanna remove the transmission mount, okay? Luckily we have a stand here, a jack, holds it up, so that ain't going anywhere. Денис! Dude! Next step is pretty simple. You gotta remove the sway bar. There's the end links, you gotta remove them from way up there. There's a couple bolts and a couple nuts. Remove that, remove the axle bolts. And then there's gonna be two giant bolts that hold the diff right up over there, right? On each side, one on each side. The axles are 3/8 nuts, right? You remove those, you just pop them out. They're extractable like that, so just pop them out. Next up is gonna be the diff. There's one bolt up there, one bolt up there, and one bolt on the side right there, and that's one of the bushings we're gonna be replacing. So, explain what the issue was. You got knocking when you were driving, huh?
Yep.
Dude.
When I would accelerate, and then it got worse, and on little bumps, it would jump. And sometimes the whole drive line would start.
Wow. Bruh, and it wasn't even tightened, dude.
Oh my goodness.
These top ones are an E14 socket. Make sure you use the correct socket. You see the star on this? Very easily stripped if they're not used with the correct sockets. Get those out and drop the diff down, baby. So to get the bushings out, it's quite simple. You want to heat up the housing first, just to make the metal, more flexible and extract a little bit. Then you take an 18 mil long socket and a hammer, and you punch your way right out. Call me Thor.
No.
I'm strong, dude. Of course, didn't film it because that's always what happens. But pretty much, look, we have clamps, right? But none of these fittings worked. So we kind of had to make our own. We took a giant washer and it turned out to be a little bit too big for the fitting. So Dennis trimmed it just enough. See, I mean, it doesn't even fit, but he trimmed it just enough for it to fit through and pretty much push on the bushing itself. He trimmed it just enough. So the bushing was all sorts of janky. This was before we even did anything, really. This was the way it was OEM, unless somebody screwed with this way before Dennis even got the car. But pretty much we had to push it out. This fits exactly over the casing of the bushing. So we pushed it out and we hammered it out with a giant socket and an extension and a hammer. To put a new one in, you're gonna have to take a bunch of lubricant that PowerFlex actually provides you with. Before you put your new bushings in, make sure to clean out the areas very thoroughly, okay? Use some brake cleaner, clean it all up very well, you know, clean it up. And before you put your new bushings in, make sure that they sit in the freezer for a little while. That way they don't expand, they actually become a little bit smaller, and so they'll fit in that much easier, you know what I mean? 20 hours? 20 plus hours, yeah. Put it overnight. I realize we kind of said a little bit too late, but watch this video before you do any sort of work. There you go. This is the front mount bushing, that's what it's called. You press this one in, put a bunch of lubricant in, make sure it goes in nice and smooth, and then this is the order of operation, okay? This is the order of how the washer's supposed to sit before you put the bolt in.
So you want to put the one with the bore on the outside of it, goes on the front of the diff. The other one with no bore goes on the back, and then this part just goes in there.
Nice and easy.
And if you put it in the fridge, you don't even have to use lubricant.
That's right. The order for all the washers for these bushings when you're putting them in is large washer, right? Smaller washer, the spring washer looking thing, and then the bolt itself. Once you put this diff in there, this exact order goes straight through and you just tighten them in. It's in, the diff is in. Here's the thing, we've tried out numerous ways and we found the easiest way to do this is to tighten this guy first, right? You just do it real tight. We could not find any torque spikes because these are different bolts, and with washers, it's a whole different system, and PowerFlex doesn't do that, doesn't give you any info on it. So we just did it super hand tight. Obviously, you know, you don't want this to unscrew or whatever, but yeah, same with these. Could not find any torque specs for these, but yeah, just do it super hand tight and they should be good. Next up, what else do you want to do? Well, then you put the axles back on. Pretty simple, man. Once you put the axles back on and the sway bar, if this is all you're doing, that's pretty much it. But remember, when you're putting the axles back on, tighten the bolts in a star formation, okay? And then go over all of them again just to make sure they're all tight. In this case, we've already replaced the guibo. That's already new, that's already tight on. And now we're replacing the center bearing on the drive shaft. The drive shaft, pretty simple. Since the drive shaft is balanced, keep that in mind. You gotta mark it up, okay, exactly to where it is, because you wanna put it exactly back the same way it was before you took it apart. And this is the bearing we're gonna be changing. There you go. Thank you for watching this video. Dude, there's more stuff coming. Just saying, there's much more stuff coming. And it's just cooler when we're underneath the car, so keep them, you know, do all the following, you know what to do, dude. Peace.